The Ottoman Empire was one of the most enduring, expansive, and influential political and military entities in world history, lasting nearly 6 centuries, 1299 to 1922. It stood not only as a formidable Islamic empire, but also as a vital bridge between civilizations, connecting Europe and Asia, Christianity and Islam, and the medieval world with the modern age. Its rise, golden age, and eventual decline vividly reflect the sweeping transformations in global political and cultural landscapes from the late Middle Ages to the early 20th century. From the collapse of centralized authority, various Turkish beyliks, principalities, emerged as new military political centers. Among them, the Beylik of Osman quickly stood out due to its strategic position near the weakening Byzantine frontier and its effective use of the Ghaza ideal. Holy war against non-Muslims to justify conquest and attract fighters. Osman I, leader of the Kai tribe, never claimed kingship in his lifetime but laid the foundations of a lasting dynasty through guerrilla tactics, frontier raids, and exploiting Byzantine weakness. He expanded his power without a fully developed state structure. The year 1299, while symbolic rather than legal, is recognized as the founding date of the Ottoman dynasty. His son Orhan transformed the tribal foundation into a structured polity. The conquest of Bursa in 1326 was a turning point. Orhan made it the first Ottoman capital, enabling trade and central governance. Under Orhan, the Ottomans introduced administrative institutions, Islamic courts, taxation systems, coinage, and a standing army, the precursor to the elite janissaries. His marriage alliance with a Byzantine princess further legitimized his rule and expanded his influence. The capture of Gallipoli in 1354 marked the Ottomans' entry into Europe and the start of Balkan expansion. Under Murad I, 1362 to 1389, the Ottomans became a formidable European power. He relocated the capital to Adrianople, won decisive victories at Maritsa, 1371, and Kosovo, 1389, and turned Balkan states into vassals. Murad institutionalized the Janissary Corps and introduced the Devshirme system, recruiting Christian boys as elite soldiers loyal only to the Sultan. The Timur system distributed land to soldiers in return for military service, tying them to central authority. These reforms consolidated the empire's military and administrative core, but triumph did not last forever. In 1402, Sultan Bayezid I was defeated and captured by Tamerlane at the Battle of Ankara, plunging the empire into a crisis. The period from 1402 to 1413, known as the Interregnum, saw Bayezid's sons wage civil war for the throne. Only in 1413 did Mehmed I emerge victorious, reuniting the fractured empire. Mehmed I played a key role in restoring Ottoman strength. He re-established central authority, rebuilt the administrative hierarchy, and reformed the military. Diplomatically, he stabilized relations with both Christian and Muslim powers, reaffirming the empire's regional standing. Thus, the period from 1299 to 1421 charts the transformation of a frontier tribe into a multi-continental polity with growing state institutions, military power, and imperial ambitions. This foundational phase paved the way for the Ottoman Empire's golden age under future sultans like Murad II and Mehmed II. Before we dive in, if you find this type of content interesting, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more in-depth stories from history. Your presence truly means a lot to us, and we deeply appreciate you being here. Thank you for your support. Let's get started. By the late 13th century, the region of Anatolia, also known as Asia Minor, had fallen into deep political, social, and military fragmentation. Once held under the relatively stable rule of the Seljuk Sultanate of Rum, a branch of the Turkic Seljuks who governed from the 11th to the early 14th century. Anatolia descended into disarray following a critical turning point: the Battle of Caxi Dak in 1243. In that battle, the Seljuk forces suffered a crushing defeat at the hands of the Mongol Empire. This defeat was not merely military in nature. It triggered a cascade of political consequences that ultimately shattered the already fragile foundations of centralized Seljuk authority. The immediate aftermath of Cake-Dak saw Anatolia devolve into extreme decentralization. The central power of the Seljuk dynasty effectively collapsed, enabling provincial governors, military commanders, and tribal Turkic chieftains to establish autonomous rule. Thus, a once centrally administered region transformed into a mosaic of beyliks, small, independent or semi-independent principalities controlled by various Turkic dynasties. This period can be seen as an era of dual authority. Nominally, the beyliks maintained a vassal relationship with the Ilkhanate, the Mongol dynasty ruling over Iran and eastern Anatolia, but in practice, they operated with full autonomy. Although militarily formidable, the Ilkhanate was unable to exert sustained control over Anatolia due to geographic distance and internal instability. As a result, a new political order emerged, defined by intense rivalry among the beyliks, each functioning as a compact military political center with ambitions of territorial expansion, while the Seljuks disintegrated and the Ilkhanate exercised loose control. Another major geopolitical actor was also in terminal decline, the Byzantine Empire. Once the dominant power across all of Anatolia, the Byzantines had, by the 13th century, lost the majority of the peninsula to Turkish tribes. The Fourth Crusade in 1204 and the establishment of the Latin Empire in Constantinople had severely fractured Byzantine authority. Although they reclaimed Constantinople in 1261, the Byzantines never regained effective control over Anatolia. By the late 13th century, Byzantium was plagued by continuous civil wars, succession crises, and financial hardship. As a result, frontier forts and strongholds in western Anatolia were left poorly defended, creating an ideal opportunity for nearby beyliks, especially the Beylik of Osman, to use border warfare as a tool of expansion. The scattered and poorly fortified Byzantine towns, coupled with ethnically diverse populations lacking strong allegiance, were easy prey for resolute Ghazi leaders. A particularly significant aspect of Anatolia in this era was the emergence of the concept of ghaza, a form of religious warfare waged by Muslims against non-Muslim powers. While local conflicts between principalities were frequent, battles against Byzantium or Christian territories were imbued with religious legitimacy, drawing immense appeal among itinerant Muslim warriors who lacked farmland and subsisted through warfare. This had two strategic implications. First, leaders such as Osman could wield the concept of ghaza as a tool of propaganda to attract warriors, consolidate political authority, and unify disparate tribal factions. Second, religious ideology transformed plunder into a sacred duty, fostering a spirit of perseverance and enabling the formation of disciplined armies shaped by asceticism and self-sacrifice. Beyond this spiritual dimension, the Muslim-Christian frontier functioned as an open zone, poorly governed and weakly institutionalized, providing ideal conditions for mobile Turkish forces to wage guerrilla warfare, launch ambushes, seize isolated outposts, and quickly exploit the resources of newly conquered territories. In the chaotic context of late 13th century Anatolia, as Seljuk power disintegrated and Turkish beyliks rose to compete, Osman I, the founder of the Ottoman dynasty, emerged as a remarkable political and military phenomenon. Although during his lifetime, Osman never claimed kingship in the imperial sense, nor established a complete institutional structure. His actions, strategies, and alliances laid the foundation for a long-lasting political entity with extraordinary momentum, the Ottoman Empire. Osman came from the Oghuz Turk tribe, one of the most important nomadic Turkic branches in Central Asia, after the Seljuks migrated into Iran and Anatolia. Many Oghuz groups followed, including the Kayi tribe of Osman's family. His father, Ertugrul, was a minor tribal chief who served the Seljuks as a semi-independent military force responsible for guarding the western frontier. This tribe was granted land near Skut and Bilchek, a region bordering the Islamic world and Byzantine territory. Notably, This location was neither large nor rich in resources, but it was extremely advantageous in terms of military strategy. It lay right next to the border with Byzantium, where the defensive system had severely weakened. In a place where both official powers, Byzantine and Islamic central authorities, Seljuks or the Ilkhanate, lacked real presence, Osman was able to establish his own order, one that was both independent and flexible concerning larger powers. One of the core elements that enabled Osman to attract forces and assert legitimacy was his self-identification as a Ghazi leader, a warrior of the holy war against the infidel, in this case, the Byzantines. War was not just for survival, but was linked to a profound Islamic ideal, the expansion of Dar al-Islam, the land of Islam, against Dar al-Harb, the land of war. The Ghazi identity served multiple purposes. It legitimized conquest, turning border raids into religious duty. It attracted manpower, drawing warriors from other beyliks or marginalized Muslim groups excluded from power. It created tribal cohesion, rallying loyalty not only through kinship, but through a shared ideal. In an environment where beyliks fiercely competed and no stable dynastic structure prevailed, Osman used the concept of ghaza as a tool to militarize faith, turning every campaign against Byzantium into an opportunity to seize territory, distribute spoils, and reinforce his reputation. Unlike the grand campaigns of empires, Osman's early attacks were small-scale raids targeting weak fortresses. Lacking support from Constantinople, victories such as Yanakurt and Beylik were not militarily decisive, but carried major psychological and strategic importance. They demonstrated that the Byzantine forts along the frontier were truly deteriorated and easy to collapse. Osman had the ability to organize effective attacks using mobile cavalry and guerrilla tactics. Each victory brought spoils and land, which made it easier to reward and attract loyalty from commanders. What is notable is that even in its early stages, Osman's forces were not strong. But through guerrilla ambush warfare and by exploiting the local population's unfamiliarity with Byzantium, he maximized surprise and paralyzed the enemy. The year 1299 is often regarded as the founding date of the Ottoman dynasty. However, according to modern historians, this is a symbolic marker rather than a clearly defined legal event. At that time, Osman had not yet claimed kingship, nor was there a court, national laws, or an administrative apparatus. But Ottoman chronicles, written in the 15th to 16th centuries under powerful sultans such as Mehmed II or Suleiman, referred back to 1299 as a way of affirming the historical continuity of the empire. In other words, the founding of the Ottomans in 1299 was a historical narrative, constructed to serve the legitimacy of later sultans, not an independently recorded contemporary event. Nevertheless, it remains important symbolically because it marks the transition from tribal chief to a political entity with independent stature. In terms of internal organization, Osman ruled according to the traditional model of nomadic Turkic tribes: leadership based on bloodline, governance through kinship and military ties, and distribution of spoils and land according to merit. This was not a typical bureaucratic system, but it was highly effective in a context of continuous warfare due to its clear reward system and motivation for combat. newly acquired land would be granted to loyal commanders, creating a military elite whose interests were closely tied to the leader. These were key factors that allowed later sultans to maintain centralized power through military loyalty networks, rather than through traditional aristocracy. Osman, I was not a ruler with a complete court apparatus, but he was a strategic architect in leveraging geographic position, historical timing, and religious ideals to transform a small tribe into a political force with far-reaching influence. By linking warfare with the Ghaza ideal, distributing rewards based on merit, and exploiting the Byzantine crisis, Osman built a flexible, effective, and expandable foundation, paving the way for powerful institutionalization under Orhan and Murad I later on, after the death of Osman I around 1326. His son Orhan ascended to the throne and continued expanding Ottoman influence. Orhan's reign marked a significant turning point in the transformation from a semi-nomadic state, into an urbanized state with an organized government. One of Orhan's greatest achievements was the conquest of the city of Bursa in 1326. This was not only a significant military victory, but also a decisive turning point in the transformation of the Ottoman polity. Bursa, with its strategic geographic location, was a wealthy city of economic, commercial, and cultural importance. After capturing Bursa, Orhan transferred the capital from Skut, where Osman I had begun building the empire, to Bursa, making it the new center of Ottoman power. The conquest of Bursa opened new opportunities for trade and economic development, enriching the Ottoman treasury and strengthening Orhan's political authority. Under Orhan, the Ottomans began to construct a highly organized administrative system to ensure efficient governance of newly acquired territories. Orhan established systems of administration, taxation, and Islamic courts, called qadis. These institutions not only helped maintain social order and justice, but also supported the empire's expanding structure. Orhan's issuance of a distinct Ottoman coinage marked a clear sign of economic and political development. It stabilized finances and asserted Ottoman authority over the economy. The implementation of taxation was also a key measure, enabling the state to fund military operations, build infrastructure, and support the elite class. The establishment of Islamic courts, qadis, resolved disputes and upheld legal order, contributing to the overall stability of Ottoman society. Orhan also initiated major military reforms by developing a standing army rather than relying solely on tribal forces. His military innovations led to the early formation of the Janissaries, one of the most elite military corps in Ottoman history. One of Orhan's key strategies for consolidating power was the formation of political alliances through marriage. Most notably, he married a Byzantine princess. This alliance brought not only political and military support from Byzantine circles, but also enhanced Orhan's legitimacy, making him a more widely accepted leader among both Muslim and Christian communities. The marriage to the Byzantine princess reflected the Ottomans' long-term strategy of maintaining conciliatory relations with the Byzantine Empire. Through such alliances, Orhan gained access to new resources and skillfully leveraged internal Byzantine conflicts to expand Ottoman territory. Orhan did not confine his ambitions to Anatolia. He also began expanding into Europe, a defining feature of Ottoman development. One of Orhan's first victories in Europe was the capture of Gallipoli in 1354, laying the foundation for deeper penetration into the Balkans. This victory significantly enhanced the Ottoman state's reputation among Muslim warriors, particularly the Ghazis. The conquest of Gallipoli was framed as part of the Holy War against infidels, reinforcing the dynasty's identity as a defender of Islam. This event also marked a shift in the scale of warfare from small-scale frontier raids to campaigns involving long-term settlement and occupation. Although Orhan did not personally lead the Gallipoli campaign, he asserted his role as the political sponsor and organizer of the expansion effort. This laid the groundwork for subsequent sultans, such as Murad I and Bayezid I, to conduct deeper and broader conquests into the Balkans. The Ottoman Empire truly emerged as a formidable power that instilled fear across Europe during the reign of Murad I, ranging from 1362 to 1389, who succeeded Orhan. His reign marked a major development in militarization and administrative centralization, securing Ottoman influence across both Europe and Asia. One of the most significant events of Murad I's reign was the relocation of the Ottoman capital from Bursa to Adrianople in 1365. Adrianople's geographical location, close to the European frontiers and situated along key trade routes, made it an ideal base for both military operations and diplomatic relations with Balkan kingdoms. This strategic shift signaled a new focus on European affairs and reinforced Ottoman ambitions in the Balkans. Among Murad I's most important military campaigns in the Balkans was the Battle of Maritsa in 1371. In this battle, the Ottomans defeated a coalition of Serbian and Bulgarian forces, securing a decisive victory. Following this, many Balkan territories were subdued and forced to accept Ottoman suzerainty. This marked the beginning of a process through which the Ottomans turned Balkan kingdoms into vassal states, instituting tribute payments and hostage-taking practices to ensure loyalty. The Battle of Kosovo in 1389 was a defining moment, pitting Murad I against King Lazar Rebeljianović of Serbia. Although the battle did not yield a conclusive military outcome, both sides suffered heavy losses. It reinforced the Ottoman military presence in the Balkans. After the battle, Serbia effectively became an Ottoman vassal, obligated to pay tribute and provide military support, further consolidating Ottoman control in southeastern Europe. Perhaps the most significant institutional development under Murad I was the formal establishment and expansion of the Ottoman military system, especially the creation of the Janissary Corps, one of the most elite and influential military units in Ottoman history. The Janissaries were recruited through the Devshirme system, in which Christian boys from the Balkans were taken, converted to Islam, and trained as elite soldiers with unwavering loyalty to the Sultan. The Janissaries were not only a professional standing army, but also a powerful symbol of the militarization of the Ottoman state. They played a central role in many military campaigns, especially in European theaters of war. The Devshirme system also served as a tool of imperial integration, ensuring the loyalty of newly conquered regions and producing a powerful military administrative class that was independent from local aristocracies. This helped the Ottomans to sideline traditional power structures and reinforce centralized authority. Murad I further developed the Temur system, a feudal-like arrangement in which land was granted to soldiers in exchange for military service. This system not only ensured a reliable supply of resources for warfare, but also created a stable military network. These Timur-holding soldiers were responsible for managing resources and maintaining order in the territories they governed. The Ottoman realm was organized into administrative units, such as sanjaks and vilayets, each overseen by a bey who was responsible for tax collection, defense, and law enforcement. This administrative structure helped the Ottomans consolidate power in newly conquered areas and laid the groundwork for future territorial expansion, especially under the reigns of Murad II and Mehmed II. This period marked a turning point in Ottoman history. The Battle of Ankara in 1402 was a catastrophic military defeat for the Ottomans, during which Sultan Bayezid I was captured by Tamerlane Timur, leading to the temporary disintegration of the empire. In the aftermath, the Ottoman state fell into a prolonged period of chaos, known as the Interregnum. From 1402 to 1413, as Bayezid's sons fought over the succession. Nevertheless, this era also witnessed a determined and strategic effort to restore the empire under the leadership of Mehmed I, who succeeded in reunifying the Ottoman territories and laying the foundation for future imperial conquests. Bayezid I, reigning from 1389 to 1402, was one of the most formidable early Ottoman sultans. Known for aggressively expanding the empire's territories in both the Balkans and Anatolia. However, his confrontation with Tamerlane in 1402 resulted in a devastating setback that unraveled his expansionist ambitions. The Battle of Ankara in 1402 proved disastrous. Bayezid I was captured alive, and the empire subsequently fractured as his sons divided the territory among themselves. Tamerlane inflicted severe damage on the Ottoman military and administrative apparatus, shattering central authority and plunging the empire into disarray. The defeat also created openings for regional rivals and internal dissidents to rise, leading to a decade-long period of political instability and weakened governance. Following Bayezid's capture, a brutal power struggle erupted among his sons. The period known as the Interregnum lasted from 1402 to 1413, during which the Ottoman throne became the object of a civil war between Bayezid's sons Mehmed Isa and Suleiman Ish, claiming legitimacy and ruling over fragmented portions of the empire. This internal conflict not only weakened the Ottomans militarily and politically, but also destabilized the regions under their control. Conquered territories were left vulnerable, and external powers, such as the Balkan kingdoms and rival Islamic polities, took advantage of the situation to reassert influence and reclaim lost lands. Among Bayezid's sons, Mehmed I emerged as the most capable leader. His eventual victory over his brothers ended the civil strife and marked the beginning of a process of reunification and restoration of the Ottoman state's former strength. Mehmed I, reigning from 1413 to 1421, played a pivotal role in the restoration of the Ottoman Empire following its fragmentation. Not only did he defeat his rivals during the Interregnum, But he also embarked on a comprehensive campaign to rebuild the empire's political and military structures. His efforts were crucial in enabling the Ottomans to recover and embark on a new era of expansion. Once he had secured uncontested control over the empire, Mehmed I prioritized the restoration of central authority. He re-established the administrative hierarchy, enforced internal order, and sought to prevent any further erosion of Ottoman unity. His focus on strengthening the state's grip over its provinces helped stabilize the post-crisis empire. Mehmed I introduced administrative reforms to reinforce central control, reorganized the military, and revived the timur system to ensure a steady flow of resources and military service. The Janissaries remained a vital force within the Ottoman military, but Mehmed also promoted other policies aimed at enhancing the empire's military and economic strength. With internal affairs increasingly under control, Mehmed I turned to diplomacy. He worked to re-establish relations with both Muslim and Christian powers, particularly the Balkan kingdoms and the Byzantine Empire. These diplomatic efforts not only helped secure the Ottoman frontiers, but also began to restore the empire's international stature. As such, Mehmed I is remembered as a heroic figure in Ottoman history, not only for guiding the empire through a perilous crisis, but also for laying the groundwork for its future greatness. His reign marked a crucial period of recovery, enabling subsequent rulers to resume the imperial mission with renewed vigor and confidence. If you are curious to dive deeper into the history of this great empire and uncover more fascinating stories, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. Hence, you never miss a new upload. We're constantly working to bring you high-quality, well-researched content about the rise and fall of powerful civilizations. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.